Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be reviewing DADISH 2 for the Nintendo Switch. Now, DADISH 2 was released on January 18th of 2021, and it has a regular list price of $9.99. Now, as usual, as we go through this video, if you do end up liking what you see, please do hit the like button, really does help out a lot, and also, why not subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Now, storyline wise, DADISH 2 is the follow-up to the first game, all about a humanoid radish. This time around, he gets visited at work for an impromptu bring your kids to work day, and just as in the first game, his 50 kids all get lost, spread out through 50 different levels. So DADISH jumps into action, platforming his way through all 50 levels to save each one of his kids individually. Now, storyline-wise, it doesn't really go much more in depth than that. The only other tidbits you get are basic interactions with DADISH and each one of his kids at the end of each level, where there's generally a little snarky interaction, but that fits perfectly in with the overall style of this game. Even though the comments are very simple in nature and end up breaking the fourth wall on a regular basis, you just can't wait to get to the end of the next level to see what his kid is going to throw out at him. Even the interactions that DADISH has with each one of the bosses in their boss levels are just ridiculous in nature, but once again just fit in perfectly with the style of this game. Now, gameplay-wise, the controls for DADISH couldn't be any simpler. You basically use the left joystick to move DADISH around, and you use the A button to jump. DADISH is also capable of a double jump, but other than that, DADISH himself has no other control mechanics to understand. However, if that worries you that the overall designs on the levels might get too simplistic for 50 different levels, don't worry at all, because there are a ton of other mechanics added into the gameplay, but they all come from the environment from the different stages. Now, if you played through DADISH 1, this is nothing new to you, because basically it's the same general setup for DADISH 2, although there's a variety of new mechanics that have been thrown in, such as rockets to ride on, balloons to jump on, and even eventually, basically moon-type lower gravity levels. And probably the most original add-on separating this game from the first one is the addition of auto-run levels, where you're basically riding on the back of the huge hamburger boss from the first game. So as usual, I like to start with what I liked about the game. And just as in the first game, what I think sets DADISH 2 apart from a lot of other puzzle platformers is the overall variety in level designs. The level designs are done in a very smart fashion. They basically add new mechanics every 2 or 3 levels, but they never see the need to hold your hand and throw in like a useless level where it's all just about learning a new mechanic. They always throw it in an original fashion that builds on the mechanics that you've already learned in the past. And that's really something I want to compliment DADISH on, because they did it in the first game and they continued it in the second one. They never threw at you those useless filler levels just to learn a new mechanic. Also, if you're worried about the difficulty level of DADISH, although I would not call this an easy puzzle platformer, and the difficulty levels do increase throughout the whole game, it never gets to that crazy point like a Super Meat Boy does. So although the later levels might take a few more tries than the first ones, everyone with a little bit of dedication should be able to finish this game. Another thing I really liked about DADISH is the very clean retro aesthetic they went for. They went for a very cartoony, basic looking game, but it completely delivers on its level designs. And basically, you're never wondering if elements are in the foreground, in the front ground. Everything is very clear on what its function is in the game. And to me, when you're looking at a puzzle platformer type of gameplay, that is the most important element. That basically the rules of the game are very simple and very straightforward and presented perfectly graphically. The music in the game is very simple chiptune music. It fits in pretty well with the overall design. I wouldn't say the music is a high point of the game, but overall it does a pretty decent job of fitting in with the rest. And lastly, I would say on the positive scale is the controls. The controls are very crisp and very precise, which is what you need for a puzzle platformer, so that is a perfect element and it fits very well in with everything else I've mentioned so far. Now if we turn to maybe a couple of the things that I would have liked to see worked on DADISH 2, There aren't very many because overall, I'm guessing you're already getting a sense that I overall appreciated this game. But nonetheless, the first point I want to touch on is a little bit of a letdown, and that is simply the frequency of the auto running levels. By there weren't enough, I actually found the auto running levels to be a nice, fresh change of pace to the overall platforming style of the game. And over all 50 levels, I think only 4 or 5 of them ended up being auto running levels. And I personally feel like the game would have been even better paced with maybe double that number. Basically, the game is separated into 5 zones. With 2 auto running levels per zone, I feel the pace of the game would have actually been improved. And the second point is something that came up in only a few of the levels, but some of the hitboxes on the obstacles seem to not be 100% consistent. There were a few times obstacles, especially when it had to do with spikes on the ceiling, where DADISH was clearly touching the spikes, but you could see that the hitbox wasn't perfectly in line with where the graphics of the spikes were starting. And although I think this had to do with the overall design choices in the level and just making the level feel a little bit fairer to the player, I was disappointed because every time it sort of happened, it did sort of throw me out of the game, feeling like the physics of the game weren't 100% consistent. But I'm talking about a very minor issue that came up, I would say, in less than 3 or 4 levels throughout all 50 stages. Now, as a closing comment, just before we get to the verdict of this game, I really think that DADISH 2 is another one of those games where the whole is just so much more than the sum of its parts. Basically, simple, straightforward, clean aesthetics with very innovative and straightforward level designs and just some perfectly placed humorous comments all mixed together to an incredible design package that really showcases the talent of this developer. So now we're at the verdict. And if this is the first video of mine you watch, just to let you know, I don't give a numerical score. I go with an overall statement that perfectly normally indicates what my feelings are on purchasing this game. And for DADISH 2, I'm going to be giving this game a definite pickup. Basically, it is so close to being a hidden gem in my book. The only thing keeping it from that is the overall length of the game, because I managed to blast through it, including picking up pretty much all the stars in the game in probably under 3 hours of gameplay. Obviously, the gameplay time will strongly vary based on your familiarity with puzzle platformers, but basically at a $10 sales price for probably what most people will have under 5 hours of gameplay out of, I just can't give it that coveted hidden gem. However, if this game is on sale for, I would say, 50% or less, then of course it would fall into that category of don't miss it hidden gems. So that's pretty much it for my review of DADISH 2. As usual, any questions or comments, always welcome down below. I try to answer as many people as possible. And as I said at the beginning of the video, if you did like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. It really does help out a lot. Also, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when all my videos come out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.